Anyway, next is we have, we've been talking about working from home for some time regarding, obviously the current pandemic is still ongoing, but, business has to continue. And, question is, what will happen to the employees? Now, obviously, for the past year, employees are stuck at home, working from home for the longest time. Now, once restrictions have been lifted slowly, some locations are allowing employees to go back to their offices. But the question is, will employees go back? Now, there's an article here that, according to the Harvard Business School, which is kind of ironic, 81% of people who have been working from home through working from the pandemic don't want to go back. So, let's see the article here. Yeah, so as mentioned here, 81% of people who have been working from home don't want to go back to work anymore, or would prefer a hybrid schedule of sorts. So they surveyed 1,500 remote workers, and the studies mentioned 27% hope to continue working remotely full-time, indefinitely actually. And then another 61% would prefer to mix working from home with going to the office 2 to 3 days a week. So meaning it's not going to be the same as before anymore now. Obviously, companies, to inculcate, company culture is important to see physically. Now, obviously, with technology, you have Skype, using Zoom here, can only do so much. You can see each other, but can you really talk to one another, over the internet? It's always different when you can talk to a person physically, where you can see them, body language, all the mannerisms, all the that goes along if you're in proximity with your colleagues here. But obviously, this has given a glimpse as to, for employees, what is possible, that they're still able, we are still able to work effectively, or even more effectively, working at home or working remotely is the case here. Now, question is, what would the companies do here? Would they relinquish that option, or are they going to require all employees to go back to their offices and go back to the way it used to, if it's even possible to begin with? Anyway, according to Paul Mullaney, I think it's Mullaney, Harvard Business School online executive director, stated that preparing going back to business as usual, obviously professionals don't want business as usual anymore, and I think that's going to be there's going to be a new norm, as it's the case with, even if there's going to be a vaccine, would people not wear any face mask in the future? I think people would still, as a precaution. And as stated here, they want flexibility from their employees to allow them to maintain the new work-home balance and productivity they have come to enjoy. And as long as they're able to do their jobs effectively, I think it makes a strong case for employees to benefit from this new hybrid setup of sort. And as mentioned, going back to the office, will people still be going back to the office? Obviously, at some point, but will it be the same? Will it be a 9 to 5 job in terms of Mondays to Fridays, or even Saturdays if you're going? Maybe it would be lesser. So meaning more on productivity rather than quantity. Quality over quantity is the name of the game. And one of the statistics here, it's kind of compelling. 51% of respondents stated that they want to be fully vaccinated before even going back to offices. So, it's still a 50-50 endeavor here. And again, while 71% would prefer to wait until everyone is vaccinated before even going back to the office. Now, question is, even if everyone's vaccinated, would everyone be comfortable from what they're experienced, in working from home, this flexible type of, setup? So question is, how will companies adjust to this? Now, obviously, on a related topic, how are tech companies here, big tech companies, is adjusting to bringing their workers back here? Meaning, will they be going back to work within this year if vaccines are available once employees are vaccinated? Will it be a requirement if you're going to go back to office and whatnot here? Now, for tech companies here, like you have Uber and Facebook here, they announced timelines for a small percentage. So meaning, it's not a total going back to office per se, but I think they're trying to wait and see what the backlash would happen if they were to push the agenda all of a sudden. But anyway, So meaning a small percent of workforce can return to their company premises here. So we have one here. Uber will remain open its Mission Bay offices in San Francisco at 20% capacity. Then you also have Facebook will open its select offices in the Bay Area up to 10% maximum seated capacity only. So it's still not a full-blown, resuming work as is before. And what's interesting here is we also have Microsoft was also planning to open its Redmond office in Washington headquarters on a limited basis. And what's interesting here, returning to the office should be voluntary. I think that makes sense rather than requiring it, because if you're able to do your job, regardless of whichever location, should be an option rather than a requirement here. Now, according to the Uber spokesperson, Louis van der Laan, wait here, let's change the article here. There you go. As mentioned, according to the spokesperson of Uber, stated that employees returning to the workplace need to take a virtual training, sign a COVID-19 precaution acknowledgement form, and take a daily health screening. So obviously, it's going to be a very, laborious process. You have to reintegrate again in the workplace, and every time you go back, you have to, be kept checked the whole time. So, it doesn't make sense to, invite everyone go back unless it's, you can be confidently saying that the way it used to be, before the pandemic, meaning you can go into the office, to and from the office and not worry about getting infected here. But, it makes a lot of, I won't say unnecessary precautions, but obviously it's going to be problematic in terms of the process. How can you work and you have to go to the process of obviously following the protocols and everything to ensure the safety? And wouldn't it be nice if you could just do it at home? It is less cost, right? Unless the company or the government can ensure the safety of all employees nationwide or worldwide, wherever they work, that they can feel safe and comfortable here. Now, obviously, the companies, or in this case, Uber, is stated that they're going to put in measures such as safety signage, social distancing placards, as well as space between desks. So again, you have to reorient the entire office again. That's why I think the hybrid setup would be the more effective way of, moving forward here. And mandatory face coverings would be required in the initial phase here. Now, in terms of vaccines, so according to Uber, they're stating that they're not requiring to be vaccinated once offices have reopened. So for the case of Facebook here, employees have been given the option to work for home until July 2nd. So many of the companies here, whether it's Facebook, Amazon, or even Uber, have given leeways all the way until later this year. But how fast can they transition from work from home to working back to the office is anybody's guess here. And as mentioned in Facebook, they're stating that employee who is not a full-time remote worker may continue working from home until 1 month after the office reopens at 50% capacity. Now, when's that going to happen? Is it later this year or maybe even next year? We have to wait and see. Now, the company is likely able to open its largest sites at 50% capacity, or as stated here, by later September here. Now, obviously, unless there's a sudden spike again, but if that's not the case, they're on trajectory to hopefully by later this year integrating most or at least half of their employee population there here. Now, as for Microsoft, on the other hand here, the Vice President, Kurt Delbane, stated that Microsoft work sites in 21 countries worldwide has been able to accommodate additional workers in their facilities. So meaning the company will be focusing on a hybrid workplace model, which I think it's a great idea here that a lot of companies should look at and really consider that as a viable option here. And he also stated that as we watch for progress against the virus in the region, in different regions, the company and continue to evaluate the guidance employees who work at Redmond work sites or nearby campuses have the choice to return to the facilities or continue to work working remotely, which is options is always better than forcing employees to do one thing over the other. And also gives you the flexibility to do a mixture of both. So you can wait and see, how comfortable employees, and obviously lessen the risk is another thing here. Now, finally, in terms of Google's plan, so it was stated that we talked about it last week that Google is investing a lot in their real estate, wherein we expect people to go back to their offices, and obviously not just focus in their headquarters but also in other regions. I think that will be the trend in the future, expanding several office sites in different regions, so you can still work together, but necessarily don't have to be in one main headquarters like what they're experiencing right now, so that you can still work together as a group, but not in one facility in this case. So you could be much closer in your provinces or in your cities here. So according to Google's plan here, as mentioned, they're stating that their return to office is still uncertain. So it would allow employees to work from home until later this year in September, and then they will reevaluate. On the other hand, you have Apple CEO Tim Cook is stating that December is the target date, that it seems likely the majority of teams won't be back in the office before June. So meaning, they're looking at how it progresses in terms of the vaccinations, and how employees or the people take it, or if there's any effect. And for the other companies like Bloomberg, Twitter, and Spotify, they're allowing their employees to work from home permanently if they wish. So again, option is always a good way to, not say ingratiate with your employees, but again, at the end of the day, as long as they can do their job properly, effectively, and it should be consideration. And on a related note now, since we've been talking about working from home, now if long-term solution is working from home, what would business look like now? According to Tech Times, they're stating that the future of working remotely for businesses, of using smart glasses, sort of AR experience, or augmented reality experience, or virtual reality experiences, similar to what we're used to watching in films. I think we're getting closer to that point. I think a film that I watched, I think it was Ready Player One. Now, obviously, it's more of a game experience, but you can just imagine wearing a virtual headset. You're at home, but you're actually meeting with your other colleagues in a virtual office somewhere else. Would be the new norm. So it's not just seeing each other in camera, in Zoom meetings, and so forth, but you'll be transported to a different location where everyone can see each other and collaborate, whether it's augmented reality or virtual reality here. Now, obviously, for training purposes, collaboration, as well as improve customer service purposes here. And there was a recent report according to the PricewaterhouseCoopers, where they stated that both AR and virtual industries are expanding on an exponential scale. Obviously, this has been jump started, not necessarily jump started, but has accelerated the process with the pandemic that happened last year here. So let's see there. Yes. So as mentioned here, so with headset-based virtual reality accelerated ahead of its non-headset counterpart in terms of adoption. And sorry, the adoption already has surpassed to 95 million users in the US by 2022. So meaning a lot of people are going to continue to use this technology, and even businesses should look at it as a viable option here. Now, adoption of augmented and virtual reality technology is likely to accelerate further with the development of smart glasses. Now, Google has tried to sell the smart, AR smart glasses, but to less appeal, so to speak. But other companies like Facebook, Apple, Google, as mentioned, are key industry players gearing up for releases over the coming months. So, unless they can come up with a unique feature, or that makes it not like make you look silly or stupid in this case, people are less likely to adopt it. So it has to, look seamless, right? Anyway, and as mentioned, remote work vacancies are increasing significantly across the world, regardless of regions here. So question here is, it will undoubtedly lead to a greater emphasis of the development of collaborative tools to improve the functionality of businesses and quality of communications between colleagues. So obviously, you cannot just stagnate and be complacent of doing Zoom meetings all time, every time. Now, when you do collaborative work, you'd like to be meeting face to face, but the problem is, we're not yet to that point that everyone's comfortable going back to their offices here. So what's the in between here? Obviously, using technology, like in this case, VR or AR, is another way of accomplishing that. Now, how effective that is, it's a case-to-case basis here. And obviously, this would be reimagining how a home office would look like. Obviously, setting up an AR VR network is not easy. It's going to be costly, so price point is an issue there. And obviously, the advantage of, as mentioned, is the training per se. That obviously how can you conduct training if you're not face to face with your trainer and trainee? And obviously, the technology here would alleviate many of those concerns. And obviously, even if we're able to adapt, the AR VR technology here in the future, the question here is, what's the policies regarding here? Obviously, how do you differentiate from working at home to working, within a timely manner? Is it 9 to 5 job, or obviously the complexities of mixing your work and home status here is kind of iffy here. So obviously, companies has to be careful on how to approach this situation. And obviously, with new technology comes with new challenges for businesses. So work culture will be needed to adapt to. So obviously, a culture with people are within proximity to one another is one thing. You have different problems, in fighting amongst different members if you don't agree. How about if you're far from one another and you have to work together in a virtual environment? Obviously, it creates a different scenario altogether here. So companies has to look at this carefully and strategically, and take into consideration the emotional toll that this will bring to any individual or any person at that. And obviously, guidance will be needed for employees for making the shift from a physical work environment to a digital one, which I totally agree with the article. And even moving forward, even if everyone's vaccinated, it's a COVID-free scenario, people would still, have seen what work from home scenario is, the flexibility of working from home, in the office, gives you more time to enjoy life. Not just working all the time or studying all the time, but be able to do different things outside of what we're used to here.